Great. Welcome to another episode of Pink Sock Podcast. I'm your host, Mike Usnick. I've got Tony here, and we have a lovely guest today, Steve Brown. He's worked with a lot of interesting people. He's worked with Freddie Mercury, the Queen himself, Freddie Mercury, Elton John. He's worked with George Michael. That's Sir
Elton John.
Sir Elton John. He's been knighted since then. He is knighthood. Yes, you're right. And with this show, what you're about to watch is a nightmare. No, Steve Brown's a great guy, excellent person. But before we get to Steve, we would like to give a shout out to our loyal Patreons, if it pops up, because today is going to be a fun show. We've got Grack, we've got Hot Amy, we've got Gloria, we've got David Dowdle, and we've got Joe Bashir. And there it is, patreon.com/official Mike Usnick. It'll all buff itself out. And to become a Patreon, you just visit that website. You either pay $1, which will get you a shout out on the show, just like that. It will also, you can pay $5. You get a shout out on the show. You get a personally typed out message or first dibs on fan select topics. You get all those things. And for $10, you get much more. You get a shout out, you get VIP access to the backstage area. We'll bring you on to talk. You get a one-on-one chat with me and Tony, and you get first dibs on topics. Now, without further ado, we have the one, the only producer, Steve Brown. How you doing, Steve?
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Afternoon for you. Good evening for me. It's dark outside. I'm in London, of course.
Yeah, I couldn't tell with the accent. I couldn't.
My Boston accent.
I thought you're from Jamaica, Queens. I thought.
Yeah, I've refined it. I've refined my accent slightly.
Right.
When I went for the Bond part, I had to.
So tell us a little bit about your career, because you've had a long and amazing career. Didn't it start with you wanting to be a pilot?
Yeah, I was at school, supposedly behaving myself and studying to be a commercial airline pilot because I love flying. Mm-hmm. There's a guy at school with me. We started the school band and we weren't very popular, and the whole music thing was sneaking up on me. I didn't know. And then I started to go out with this girl who was a local. Her father built Elton John's house back in 1972. And we ended up going around there for dinner. I was 17. And then we bumped into each other again. Elton and I bumped into each other again at the local gas station where he was filling up his car. And he said, "Look, we've got a space on the British tour, the 1972 British tour." And hi, Lindsay. And I took the job, and I never went back to school. I stayed in the music industry. From working with Elton, I got to know Gus Dudgeon and Ken Scott, and these guys are world famous. Poor old Gus has gone now, but they looked after Elton John, David Bowie, Mark Bolan, all these sort of people, and they encouraged me to get into the studio business. So I joined what was Universal back in September 1972. I know I don't look old enough, but I joined as a tea boy, which means you make the tea and you sweep the floor. And after working there and working my way up through tape operator and recording engineer and all the rest of it, I eventually got given a production by somebody in Universal. And 8 years from joining, I had a #1 record with George Michael and Wham. And that was my pop days. Please forgive me, because I can imagine most of the people on here are quite rocky.
Hey, Elton John can get pretty rocky.
From the intro music, you're going to have to Google Zodiac Mind Warp and the Love Reaction. You'll like that.
I'll check them out.
But that's the early days. That took me, up until the age of 25.
Well, Elton John's a little rocky, so we forgive you.
Yeah, he was. That was a good rock. But unfortunately, I ended up in the pop production market by sheer mistake, because I was the resident engineer underneath a big record company, and I was pretty popular. And so some guys came down and said, "Can you look after this band ABC?" And that led to George Michael hearing that particular record and saying, "I want this guy to produce my first album," and that's what we did. That's how it happened. So I ended up in the pop market. I was well and truly a pop star. I had white socks and penny loafers and the whole 9 yards.
So do you listen to pop music, or is that just what you got into?
I don't actually listen to music.
What?
I don't listen to it. Now, if you want to know what I listen to, I was it's kind of weird, because I was weaned on my early listening in pop was when I was very young, because my oldest sister is 10 years older than I am, and they used to buy singles every week. And so when I was a kid, I'd listen to British pop, like the Beatles and that sort of thing. It was classified as pop. And then as I got into my teens, I got near the sea here down here in Cornwall, and got in with the surfing crowd. And I ended up, listening. My main listening was things like the Eagles, Steely Dan, Doobie Brothers, all that West Coast surf type stuff. And that was my main music influence, funnily enough, were songs, proper songs, rather than just rap. And then after that, once you start making records, you only listen to music for research. Trust me, that you don't actually, if you want to enjoy yourself, you go back and listen to what you listened to when you were a kid.
Yeah. I help run a music media site, and anymore I'm like, yeah, I'm listening to it because of research purposes.
I listen to a bunch of classic rock all the time. I don't hardly listen to a bunch of the new stuff.
Yeah, well, it's very hard. Also, it's a big gripe of mine, because it's very hard to find new stuff. Because although streaming, fantastic, we can do anything. You have got an unbelievable amount of shit to get through to get to the good stuff. And this is one of my main gripes for you youngsters out there. They are uploading everything, and the main music industry, the reason the 70s and 80s were so good is because we had A&R managers, artist and repertoire managers, and they would decide. The record company would come along with huge amounts of money and go, who? And they go, these guys, because they're writing the right songs, it's commercial, it'll sell millions and millions and make millions and millions of dollars. And it was that business. It was quality control. But now anybody can get anything in their bedroom, stick a microphone on it, yodel along to it, and they can put it up on Spotify, and it's up there, hidden in those bedroom demos that everybody's making, is a classic new Led Zeppelin, but we can't find them.
Speaking of new Led Zeppelin,
it's very hard to find original stuff anymore.
Yeah, it is, really.
Speaking of new Led Zeppelin, have you heard of Greta Van Fleet?
Yeah, of course. They took about.
I have a gripe about those bands, because it's just a trend.
Yeah, I gave it about. I can remember. I listened to it. I gave it about 30 seconds, and then I couldn't believe it. I went back there and gave them another 30 seconds, and then destroyed it. So it's not my generation. But people think, well, there is a thing with pop music. In pop, guys, listeners and viewers. I'm a record producer, so it's my business. So I listen and analyze pop and the market and rock on the market, and I don't do rap, I don't do that sort of thing. But commercial music where the artists are set out to make a career and money out of this thing. This is my job. But in the pop industry, funny enough, kids and sorry for calling you kids, but I'm 66 years old next birthday. So you're old enough to be my.
You look good for your age.
Yeah, you're old enough to be my grandkids, but kids, without being patronising to you, the pop people, when they pick up an act, say they've got an older brother or sister, and a pop act come along, then very rarely do they latch onto that. They latch onto the next pop act, so it's generational. But in the rock market, like for instance, my kids now, they listen to music that my kids listen to 70s music. Because they've eked out all the good stuff from all the bands from the 70s, and it was recorded very differently. Right. It was recorded in a very different way, and it's kind of manufactured now. Even rock's manufactured to a certain extent. Everything's tweaked and tuned, and God knows what else. Very, very few raw bands around. So if you ask me to do a band now, which you're quite welcome to, but I cost a fortune. I would simply find a good acoustic setting, and I'd put the whole band in the same. It'd all be done live, and we do little tweaks on overdubs afterwards to fix mistakes. But my secret to my production is generating the energy that you don't get from a computer. You've got to be down there on the floor with them, and they've got to be nervous that they're talking to a producer that's got a track record. The band have got to be adrenalized. Because if you shove them on stage in front of 15,000 people, they shit themselves, and it's great. But in a studio, it's all comfy. The studio receptionist comes in and brings them coffee and fruit. And I go, fuck off, let's get some work done and really intimidate the band. And that adrenalizes it. That
kind of reminds.
That's why AC/DC records are so great.
Yeah, really. And I know
that reminds me. Because Black Sabbath did their first album in like 24 hours, mixed, mastered, written, everything.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, it's all in the same room. The band's playing together at the same time. Right. The energy is there. And in today's age, it seems like a bunch of bands are just doing that copy and paste stuff, which I don't agree with.
Exactly that. And all the tuning's quantized, and all the timing is quantized, and they can even quantize a live drummer now, which is ridiculous. What's the point in having a drummer?
Yeah, they have.
Drummers are pain in the asses, you know that. I'm joking.
Drummers and bass players.
Bass players don't change their strings for years.
Well, I've only got 4 of them. So no, but seriously, it's changed radically. And if I'm asked to do something, which is quite rare now because I've got my time's taken up on other things, but it's very definitely with a bunch of musicians, guys that can really play, and we all shut ourselves in the same room and we get ourselves psyched out, and you hit the red button and you go for it. And if I haven't got it in 3 takes, go home. Because you've lost it. If you just playing it over and over again, it's got to be well rehearsed. A lot of fun. The way I record is a lot of fun. I do a lot of pre-production, which means we go to a very cheap studio somewhere out in the sticks, and we have fun learning the material and learning the bits. And there's no pressure. It's like, do you remember that? Don't forget yesterday we put a little thing in that bridge, and don't forget that drum fill that we put in, and and they're all taking notes and they're learning the song that they've written. I've come along and sort of tweaked it around a bit, and just to make it more interesting, because I'm an outside listener, and the band go in and they learn all that until they can play it in their damn sleep. They can play it in their sleep. It's been played in. And then you go in a very expensive studio and you go, let's go. And if you haven't got a take in 3 takes, move on. Don't let the band get bored. So it's coaching.
I appreciate that out of a producer like you, because a lot of producers are like, let's just keep trying. But you're very real with people, and I love that.
Yeah, well, what I'll do is I often go in the day before and spend a very relaxed day getting the drum sound, getting all the guitar sounds I need. So that everything is preparation. But when you go to record, it's the equivalent of the energy that's generated from a live show, including, pumping the band right up, including getting quite aggressive with them if you don't feel that if they're being a bit lighthearted, this is going to be easy. No, it isn't.
Well, especially in rock music, you have to have. You see what you get, like raw, because what you're going to go see live, if that's not what you're getting, what's the point?
No. Well, that's the first thing you learn, because there's no, there is now university for being a record producer, but forget that. You learn in the 70s, you learned by recording a band and then going to see them live, and you go, fuck me, they're 3 times as good live as they are. Of course they are, because they've got an audience, and so what you have to do is generate in the studio what they generate in their heads on stage. And that's really important to get everybody psyched up into that, because it's about energy. It's not about perfect. It's all about mistakes in a way, providing they're not too bad. But it's really a case of just getting the energy. It's all about generating through 2 5-inch speakers what they generate through big PA systems,
Right.
and that, I think that's the secret really of a good production.
So speaking of bands that are 10 times better live than they are in production, this is a great segue. You work with Freddie Mercury.
Yeah. Posthumously, I'm going to add. When you say work,
Yeah.
I knew him. I met him. I did work with Queen. I produced records with John Deacon, the bass player. So I had a close connection with the band, and we recorded in the same facility in London. So when I worked with Freddie Mercury, we had some times together. But when I actually pushed the button on some of his work, he'd actually passed on, and I was asked to do it posthumously, which was a great honor for me, because I'd asked him time and time again, is there any possibility we can do a track together? And he had his team, and the band had their team. So it didn't happen. And then suddenly I got a phone call to say, will you finish 2 tracks on his solo album? So I was very proud of that I got that call. And I think, obviously one of the greatest bands in the world. And so I'm very honored to have actually got that call and to be credited on his material.
Did you ever get to see Queen live?
Definitely the greatest stadium band of all time.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Of course, at Live Aid, which was just incredible. But yeah, but more so, you get to hang out with them, and the particular canteen I'm talking about really is a studio called the Townhouse in the West London, and it had 3 world-class studios in there, and they had world-class bands. So the actual canteen where Martha, who was the cook there, she used to get on the phone and say dinner's ready, and of course all the bands would converge in this canteen, and it was magical. And you got to say hello and shake their hand and say love what you do and all that sort of thing, and other things went on which I can't mention, but yeah, it was a great facility, and it was a great gathering place for amazing talent.
That's awesome. Like, was he above, was he larger than life? I've heard people say that Freddie was larger than life.
Yeah, almost. Well, obviously I didn't get deep enough into his personal life, but I did have a client who was very close to him. I don't think I can name them actually, but I produced somebody that was very, very close to Freddie, and of course, yeah, he was theatre. He was very, very driven. I mean, very driven.
What'd you think of his documentary? Because a lot of people have are
we talking about the movie?
Yeah, the movie they made.
It's a movie. It really served a purpose. It didn't do any harm. It's the same as the Elton movie. Everybody would have done it differently, I'm not going to say it's the movie business, and the movie business is like, as I say, it's got to be their idea of sensational.
The one argument that I've heard is people are saying that they made the movie seem like Queen didn't get together until Live Aid because Freddie had AIDS, but in reality, nobody knew that he had AIDS until before he died.
True.
And Live Aid was actually, they did a reunion tour before Live Aid.
I mean, you probably remember.
Well, at the end of the day, it's a movie.
Yeah. See, in the movie. Yeah, no. It was the story. You're sitting there talking to me during the movie. I go, well, that didn't happen like that. But then you realise, you get on Facebook the next morning and go, all the people that knew said, well, that, some people were saying it's terrible. It's a travesty that this is being done to Freddie's story. but that's the way the movie makers make it, and there's nothing you can do about that. It wasn't a documentary; it was a movie.
That is 100% true.
Just like the Elton movie.
Yeah, exactly the same thing. They've given a lot of justice. It's to keep the viewer interested.
Well, Elton even said himself that's just what he remembers. It's not 100% historically correct. It's just what he remembers.
Oh, there was some. I mean, I worked under the sort of D. Murray, Davy Johnston, Nigel Olsen band, who were a great band, and they're not even featured really. And then again, the guy that actually took me into the production room and said, "This is what a producer does," is a guy called Gus Dudgeon. There's a picture of Elton's Nigel's drum kit in my bedroom. My parents, I live with my parents. Yeah, even Gus Dudgeon, Ken Scott, not mentioned in the movie at all. So it's very difficult to talk about, but the filmmakers did their job and they got the box office, and that's all there is to it. But I'm sure, I'm not a great reader of biographies, but I'm sure there's better biographies out there in all cases, so.
They were just trying to make a movie out of it.
Yeah, exactly. It's box office. It really is box office. If you can make a documentary, which would probably be take a lot longer to make, but it'd probably be a lot more. The film may not have been in terms of facts, timeline, but it certainly evokes a lot of emotions watching it. Well done, Hannah Cope. Yeah, exactly. It's the movie makers did their job.
Mm-hmm. So in the industry, you've made a lot of friends, but is it safe to say that your biggest friend you've made in the industry was George Michael?
No.
No. Who was
they're all. You stay in touch with these people. You spend a lot of emotional time with them, and hopefully you do your job properly and you remain friends. So you get tickets to gigs, you get a little VIP treatment. But lately, I've been. It's been a sad thing with George. I did stay in touch with the family. What's happened has happened. And if anybody's watching this and knows them, I give them all my love as usual. And we should move on from here, really.
What was it like working with the Manic Street Preachers?
A great story. An amazingly good band. An amazingly good brand as well. But they had a lot to say. They were very, very bright. They are a very, very bright band, and always will be a very, very bright band. Socially, they have a lot to say. But the brief, very quickly, to put this in so we don't go on for hours, is that, boys, what do you want from me? And because they were big cult fans, so they wanted me to produce another Love album for them or something like that. They said to me, we want to be, and we're talking around the time that sort of Guns N' Roses had just settled in and all the rest of it, all these bands were around. And as I say, they said to me, we want to be the biggest and best rock band in the world. Okay. And I kind of look back, having seen a gig, and just went, oh, it's going to be a lot of work to do. I don't know to this day whether or not they were teasing me on that, but they were serious, and also they wanted to make a double album to start with. So they wanted to be real rock icons. But I respect them great. I think they're great guys, and I really do respect them. But they were coming from a very sort of unrock and roll background, if you like. They lived in the outbacks of Wales, which is a very beautiful place to live. But they weren't sort of downtown rock city or anything like that. All sort of been on tour and in the big American venues. So it was a lot to sort of. I just went, okay, let's have a go. Okay. So anyway, we picked off the singles one by one, and As I say, you do pre-production and you go in and cut them. And I'm very proud to say, actually, with this band, is that I can't remember which year, but I think I might have posted it on my Facebook. But the Sony, the record company, released all of my singles that I did with them, because I had 6 hit singles off one album, and they released them all at once. So I had 6 Steve Brown productions by the same artist in the charts at the same time.
Damn.
So yeah, they made quite an impact. I don't think America. There's a couple of markets in America in terms of if you don't go mainstream because you're following some of the greatest rock bands in the world in America, you've got an underground, and they've got a very definite underground following in America. But they went east as well, and they made a massive impact in the east, in Japan and places like that. So they are an international rock band. They're probably not the greatest rock band in the world, but that's quite hard. We've already been there. They've already been established. You've got your Zeppelins and your Queens and stuff like that. But they've made a huge impact, and they've got their message over, and they've stuck. They're not hypocrites. They're really just down to earth guys. They do a damn good show. And by the way, if we get back to the live thing again, which I'm sure we will, I recommend you go and see them, because they are a damn good show, an amazing show.
And speaking about hits, you arguably helped produce one of the biggest hits that I can recall with the Romantics. What I Like About You, you really hold me tight.
That was I was actually chief engineer, the #1 engineer for that, for 2 albums. And I was working with who became a very good friend of mine, a guy called Pete Solly, who was the producer, and we worked together as a team. He was a great musician, and he played with Procol Harum and people like that. We went off to Florida, and it was it was the new garage band thing, and it was kind of what they call American punk. And we just finished with the 70s. I mean, I'd engineered quite a few punk bands in my time. And we all got together, and we had a really, really happy time. And I think, did we get #1? I think #1 or #2 in America with What I Like About You.
I think it was #1. I'm not sure. I think I read it was #1.
Yeah, still not bad.
Yeah, I think it was #1.
Not bad for a British production team, eh? So yeah. I'm still Facebook friends with them. We don't talk, but we chat occasionally. Great. Again, a great band, masters of live. Knew exactly what to do and when to do it. And everybody on that team, I can remember, even their managers at the time, we were just hilarious. We had such a good time making that record.
One of our friends here actually is in a punk band, Ashley Grant. He was in the band The Stereotypes, who went 35 years without a debut album, and they're finally releasing one.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
They played live, and they've never put an album out.
No, they released a single, and then they're releasing 35 years later their debut album. So it's the longest amount of time between single and debut album.
Right.
They're going to be in the
better late than never.
Yeah. What's it like though?
Oh, they're really good. He actually, Kath and Asher, who's producing the show right now.
I'll have to have a listen.
So speaking of punk, you actually helped. Did you produce the song I Got You, Babe?
Yeah.
Joey?
That was great actually, because I was a massive Ramones fan. Again, it was just one of these last minute phone calls. I've never been great at marketing myself. I tend to get a phone call and I go, yeah, that sounds all right. And Holly Vincent and the song, I'm not even sure why they did it. But it was a great opportunity to work with a couple of great artists. Mm-hmm. And I got to meet Joey and Ramone, which is great, because I still have heroes that you look at them and you go, oh, that's great. I hope I meet him one day, and then you get to meet them. It's fantastic, So that was recorded at a place called the Manor in Oxfordshire, which is one of Richard Branson's studios, and it's an old Gothic building. And that was a great thing as well to be part of. it was just special. There was no album. It was just a one-off recording between those two, and we did the best we could. And Tom Dolby played the outro.
Nice. Like, I was wondering when I first heard that, I'm like, a punk artist is doing "I Got You, Babe." Like, I didn't even know that cover existed until I dug into you, because I didn't expect it. Like,
We've done it a few times. But yeah, well, the whole mix-up was, we just kept it as very close to the original as possible, because I think if you're going to make something popular, don't wander too far away. Keep things, and it turned out okay. I'm quite happy with it.
I liked it. I actually listened to it, and it was great. Ashley Grant said that he'll send you something by the Stereotype. Maybe you can produce for them someday.
Yeah. You got the budget, Ashley.
You'll break the bank. Hold on, we can ask him. Hey, Ashley, you got the budget?
You got the budget, man.
Good music producers are not cheap.
It's £7.50. Is that right, Steve? Or is it gone up?
Per track, I hope. And I mean, bass drum, snare, blah blah blah. Yeah. Well, actually, I'll have a listen.
Ashley has to get a job first. No.
Again, is the problem for the music industry is that so what I do now with people is encourage really to treat it as a hobby, because back in the day, you're given a huge budget to put these things together. It's all put together by a company that have huge investors, and they can say, right, Steve, you can spend, in the 80s, you can spend £250,000 on this, okay? Mm-hmm. And consequently, everything was amazing. I got paid. I didn't have to go off and stack shells somewhere, because I was actually getting paid for doing what I'm doing. And now you've really got, you're in it from the beginning. I can go in. I can't now, because I'm just a bit too long in the tooth, but you can go, you're really good, I'll find the money, and we'll go in and we'll do it ourselves. And that's what the business is like at the moment. And that's the hardest part, because you've got a great singer, a great band, great songs, great idea, and you can't, nobody really wants to invest in music. You've got to find an angel somewhere that will pay for all the people that you need to make the thing happen.
And nowadays,
that's why I think in today's age, I think there's not going to be another chance at having another Beatles or another Metallica. The money's not there, and the industry is not like it was.
No, they need their investors really in these streaming companies. Is one, they should be looking at quality control, and two, they should be in development. They should really be looking. They should have an artist and repertoire management department that goes, I wouldn't put that on your brand. Not as much. It's shit. Don't do that. Send it back. Say sorry, not our blah blah. And on the other hand, they should be going to investors meeting and going, this band turned up. The demo was so unbelievable. We should actually put some money into it. We could actually turn this into something. And they don't have that anymore. Not as far as I know, anyway.
Right.
But that's how it happened. I could regularly walk into a record company and get thousands of pounds to go in and just produce demos for the record company, because they've recognized a band.
And there's no money to be made on Spotify or any of those streaming.
No. You just as well just do it as a hobby and see what happens. What you should do is, this sounds terrible, sounds like an old rock star, go to school, don't take drugs, but get yourself a career that you can earn some money at, treat it as a hobby, and then see how that goes from there. But you can do, I don't care what you say, you need money to do stuff like this. If you want to go commercial, if you want to sell your stuff, you need money, you need a backer, or you need your own money.
Right. Like the industries, I read somewhere that if concerts don't come back, the industry is just going to suffer tremendously more than it already has. Yeah. Because a lot of bands make money from live performance now, not from albums anymore.
Absolutely.
And it's just, it's shit. Going away from the industry a little bit, I know you have a lot more things to talk about, and we have to do a part 2, if that's all right with you.
Yeah.
Because I was wanting to do one just talking about the Drive Foundation itself, because mental health is a big topic for us here.
Yes.
But I would like to talk about the BeHive Foundation that you have.
Right. The BeHive is an idea that now has been transferred. I've let you sort of run with this, but BeHive is an idea that was created 3 or 4 years ago for the UK, but it's now been carried forward into the Drive Foundation, which is the Mental Health Foundation. And what we concentrate on in the Mental Health Foundation is new technology. We are here using the entertainment's business. We're using the entertainment's business to raise the awareness of the solutions that we can bring to the table for the mental health problem. And that is technology and it is education primarily, but it's all based on on entertainment. Because I know it sounds a terrible thing to say, that people are all aware of mental health, but it's not an enjoyable topic. And so the idea of taking the music, the entertainment industry into the mental health arena was to actually give it some awareness power. So come and, you know, this is what it's really about. We're going to entertain, we're going to talk to people who have been highly creative and are highly creative and will be highly creative, that have actually suffered things that you just read about, or you might know somebody that's kind of going down the same path. But we need to link it to something that is really engaging. And music, the arts and entertainment is really, really engaging. Everybody loves it. I've learned over the years. It's incredible. It's an incredible communicator. It's much more easy to teach through music than practically anything else, even if you've got the best teacher in the world. You know, given the subject, music, and particularly with young people, but it's emotional to all people. And to actually sit down and give people statistics on mental health and new boundaries and new this and new cures is not really as interesting as doing it through the entertainment industry. That's the hook. And that's what I decided the route we should take, because the music industry now needs another use. You know, it's lost its recorded power, it's lost its live power, or it has. I hope it really does come back, because there's nothing like a good live show. But in the meantime, we've got the arts, which is a communicator, and to get the creatives and also the casualties and also the people that suffer from mental health to actually contribute to the message through music or art or any type of entertainment. We're actually looking at comedians that handle the mental health issues, mental wellness, mental issues, mental problems. Because the comedians are, again, you know, they see bring up the funny side or the irony in some problem that you have, but it's a different way of communicating.
We need a way to spread mental health to the comedy community too, because
right now we really do,
because so many have died. Robin Williams, like Chris Farley, even. Oh
no. I mean, in terms of resources, there's not only people that have sadly gone, but there are people that have saved themselves. They've actually been through it, and they're great songwriters and they're great performers, and some of them are extremely famous. And if we can get hold and engage with these people, then we're taking it even further, because we'll get people to turn on their media to watch these people that they really admire talking about these problems, and so that we're banging on people's heads going, these things do exist. And they exist in your family, they exist in your neighbors, they exist in your school. And we just need to raise the conversation of it, really. And that's the whole idea.
Have you tried reaching out to Jim Carrey? Because he's big on that.
Well, at the moment, we're in startup. We're still with believe it or not, we started a foundation. I started a foundation with a very good friend of mine called Michael Loveless, and a friend of ours who's a singer-songwriter called Michelle Titian from Toronto, and she had a big problem, and I'm hoping to get her on this show and she can tell you all about it. But the reason she had a big problem is the whole idea is how we're going to get into this, because she fought her way out through music and a bit of yoga and some jogging, and she's got a great husband and family. But the story struck me really strongly. This woman fixed herself completely, and if she can do it, then a load of other people can do it. And we can stop this suicidal thing, and we can bring it all into a musical family where people can come and listen and enjoy and be healed. And that really is the idea. But the main point of the foundation and raising money is really to get the education and the technology section worked out, because there's just not enough facilities. And we strongly believe that prevention is better than cure. So if we can prevent young people going down this hole, this spiral, then job done.
I really admire you for that, because I suffer from mental health problems, and what people don't realize is there's a way out of it. We both do. There's a way out of it. And what I've discovered myself, like you said, I can't really, the motivation's not there to do yoga. It's my own fault, but meditation has helped with it a lot. It's all about retraining your brain. Your brain can be your own worst enemy.
We're actually putting you in a group as well, but not in a mental health group. Of sure, a mental health group is great, and the work they do as group is great. But if we put you in a music group instead of a mental health group that was based on mental health learnings, issues, education, then so the basis of the reason the whole thing is there is because of mental health awareness, solution awareness, helping. You might have a massive problem, but if you put you in a group where you can actually help other people, there's your therapy right there. It's right there.
Be with like-minded people.
Sorry?
Be with like-minded people.
Exactly. But not just mental health. It's the music, or the entertainment, or the art. It can be art, it can be comedy, it can be anything. But to actually I'm hoping that we'll put together a show much like bringing back the old MTV idea, but not just showing, but actually making a sort of magazine show out of the whole thing, and having it more interactive, having people on, stories, solutions, new technology, a magazine show, something that you're flicking through, and it's all interesting stuff.
That's an awesome idea, and I hope you get it through, because I love it. That actually brings up a question from the crowd of ours. I know it's a new program, so maybe you don't have any yet, but how many schools in the UK have adopted BeHive? Or
BeHive piloted, and the whole thing happened, and it was sent to me in the cosmos, if you like. I believe in this. Is that it's very hard to do these things, okay? But when Michelle came along and the whole Canadian mental health thing, I simply, not very patriotically, but I love the Canadians, I simply took the whole program out of the UK to develop in Canada, because it's a whole lot easier, believe it or not, to do it state by state in Canada. And there's a little bit more sympathy from the governments and the people. They're very generous people, Canadians. So I took it out of the UK to pilot and put together in Canada, and of course UK will be the first to take advantage of the whole thing. Hopefully they won't slam the door on me, but the idea is to get it developed in a state, start little by little in Canada until we get the format out. But already, I can't tell you, because we're really nothing. We're just an idea. But already, we've got Margaret Trudeau on board, who's the Prime Minister's mother. She's quite well known, very well known. She's the mother of Canada, basically. We basically got the Queen of Canada, who's our patron, honorary patron. We've got an advisory board that includes everything from top psychologists, top psychiatrists, to the head of artificial intelligence at McMaster's University. Our advisory board is shockingly intelligent. It's unbelievable. And we haven't produced anything yet. It's just that they love the idea. And so we've got a massive advisory board. Our chairman alone, we've managed to get, I can't mention his name right now, but we managed to get the former CEO of one of the biggest Canadian banks to do the governance on the whole thing. So, people that are looking at us going, well, this is a professional team you've got going here.
You've got the Queen of freaking Canada. You've got this.
I see her as the Queen. I've known her from when I was a lad in the 60s. She was the former wife, and the very recognised former wife of Pierre Trudeau. who was a very famous leader in Canada, and during the 70s, it was a great time for Canada, and they just stuck with me the whole thing. I've thought about going to live places, and top of the list really is Canada.
They're very polite over there. Like you could like accidentally like.
Oh, yeah.
You can get mad and hit one of them. They'll be like, "Oh, sorry, my face was in the way."
Well, the thing is that they'll take people like me and kind of embrace, because I'm like full on, and they don't run scared. They kind of accept you, and they try and help you. And often in a lot of powerful territories, who I won't name, as soon as you come up with something, they'll do their best to try and shoot you down and possibly steal the idea. So I just thought I played it safe, and I've gone to Canada, and I don't live there. I live in London, but when the time was right, I was commuting. I was last there in last November, but as somebody pointed out here, Joe Bashir, unfortunately, music in schools is not a priority ever.
It's the same way. It's the same way in the United States, though. It's
the art. People poo-poo the government asked people over here, if you're in the arts, why don't you go out and retrain?
Right.
That's what they said.
Yeah.
They made that happen.
Normally music programs are the first programs that schools cut if they need funding somewhere else.
Yeah. Absolutely.
At my school, they wanted to get rid of band and they wanted to up the budget for football. I'm like, get rid of one but keep the other.
Yeah. No,
that's how that works.
So it's really just a case of fighting back for the music industry, and the new music industry. And the new music industry is made out of the youth. It's the education, and they'll come along and they'll create their own industry. And the most important thing you should know about BeHive, or now as it's called, a Drive Hive from the Drive Foundation, is that if I walk into a situation, I walk into a school of a class of 50 people, I generally go, does anybody know what they want to do? And nobody really knows what they want to do. And they're looking at me and I'm looking at them and they go, well, do you know what I do? And they kind of nod. And I go, well, who wants to be a record producer? And everyone goes, yeah. They don't even know really what I do, but they want to become a music producer. So then I introduced the BeHive model, or the Drive Hive model. And what it basically leans on is that immediately you say, right, we're going to put a record company in this group of people. And all the artists and all the writers start jumping up and down and going, me, right? And what we do with this particular project is that we go, right, we know who the artists are, we know who the creatives are, sit down and shut up, okay? Just sit down for a minute. And then we then go around into the school as a whole and find out, if they've got any potential CEOs, chief executive officers, directors, marketing wizards, people that are good at maths, people that can run. The main message is that if you're going to run a media business like a music business or a record label, you need all the back office. And that's where a lot of the learning and a lot of the success comes from. Okay. And once you've got that back office together, once you've got the kids to take part, the ones that, I can't sing, I can't dance, don't worry, look at this, you can come and do this. And they can take part and they can make posters and they can do stuff that are promoting the new artists that are coming in through the door and being chosen by the management. It's just like the real world. So it's not just giving a kid a musical instrument and saying, here, you've got the opportunity to learn this. It's like, learn that, get good, because we're going to take you out into the open market. Now, somebody, I can't mention the record label now, but there's a major label who have shown an interest in this globally and will offer distribution for this project. So you can put your own music out. It's been properly put together. It's been voted in by a proper A&R department because the school are involved. The whole school are involved about this new music course.
I'm just glad this is taking off.
That model is genius.
Yeah, it's good fun. And at the moment, I designed it as an extracurricular because I was finding around here, particularly in London, is that kids didn't have much to do after school. Youth clubs had gone. I thought, well, hang on, if I started a record company like youth club type thing, and it started from that. But now the schools we modelled it on down here, they wanted to take it on and even turn it into the examination board, so that you could get a certificate to say you'd done the course.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot to do. There's tons to do, but that's the idea. And it really is just as I say, it all takes money. We need to find money. And we've got a great example at the moment about money, because I'm reading today that we've got this vaccine coming up for COVID, and the only reason it isn't here already is because the developers couldn't find the money to develop it this quickly. So suddenly, all the money has suddenly gone vaccine, bang, and now they've got all the attention. Now this will happen in music and education.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you turn it into a useful business, the money will come to you. But it's no good just saying we're going to sustain the music industry in schools, because it costs money. The music industry in schools has got to be sustainable and profit making.
Mm-hmm.
So,
like football is, and sports, and
exactly that.
For our listeners, if you want to find out more about BeHive, you can visit Steve's official website, stevebrown.info. Do you guys have a website for BeHive?
Yeah, what I'll do, if you don't mind, through this your list, I'll put stuff up about the Drive Foundation and our progress, because we can't push the button on this. You can't do any of this yet, because we're still in the setup stage. We're only just finishing with the lawyers, because everything has to go through the right channels.
You're always welcome back, Steve.
Well, if you don't mind, I'll just read some of the stuff through your channels. But you know, I can't offer you much now. I can just be here and show a little bit of enthusiasm about the future.
Well,
I can't offer you anything right now.
To find out more, if you want to post on the Pink Sock group, you're more than welcome. That's a promotional.
I'll do that.
That's a promotional thing. To find out more about Steve, though, you can visit Steve Brown's website, and you can also visit the Drive Foundation's website.
Yeah. My personal email is on the Steve Brown website, so if you write to me, that comes directly to me.
All right. We do have questions from the audience.
Okay.
Let me scroll up here. We call this Pink Sock Talk. We already covered one question. But here is a question from Debbie Mahler. You kind of already answered this, but what part does Steve Brown play in the Drive Foundation, and what is his relationship with the artists that he has produced? If there's any other way to answer that, you've already answered it mostly, but hold on, Steve, you froze again, buddy. Hold on. Welcome back. Yeah, you froze.
I just nipped out.
You pretty much answered this question already. But Debbie wants to know what part you play on the Drive Foundation and what's your relationship with the artists you produced. Hold on. We got freezing again.
Okay.
There you go. Go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead.
If you come to the Drive Foundation, you'll pretty much bump into me in terms of inquiries and stuff like that. I'm a founding member. There's three of them, my business partner and our friend. We're all friends. We've been friends for ages. Michelle Titian, and I'll give you a link to her as well. But when you start something this big, although you're the founder, you're not the boss. Okay, because you've got to go through governance. So everything has to be rubber stamped, and there's government involved and all the rest of it. But they very kindly made me the chief executive officer of 12 Star Entertainment, which I'll also include in a newsletter to you. And 12 Star manages the entertainment side of the Drive Foundation. So I have the ability to sign new artists, highlight new artists, put together on events for the Drive Foundation, etc. So I'm sort of head of entertainment for the foundation.
Any links you send me, I will add to the description below of the video, so people can visit that.
Sure. But I think after this, it's probably beneficial if Kathy and I have a chat and find out exactly what you want. I'll write up a proper document for you.
Okay.
And put it in.
We'd like to have you back, because I would like to just discuss mental health, like you said.
Right. Well, I'd like to come back with my Canadian partners who are
that'll
great.
Work.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Go ahead.
Go ahead and finish what you were saying.
I was going to say, but I think later I'll write something up for you as it becomes, I don't suppose the story is that I'm here because of a very good friend of mine in Vegas who did the show.
Yeah.
And he said, Steve, you got to do this show. You got to do this show. I said, well, I haven't got anything at the moment, because one important thing about when you're doing creative and you're releasing something is you've got to have a product, because what you're doing now is going, what can we get hold of? And I'm saying, well, nothing. I haven't got anything at the moment.
Well,
but
here's the thing.
Come back in the new year, and I'll have some stuff for you.
Here's the thing about our show. Anyone that's on the show is welcome back as many times as they want to promote stuff. So
Great.
So you might not have stuff now, but when you do, now people know you.
Yeah,
exactly. I'll do a monthly slot. How's that?
That'll work.
Dog and pony.
So the next question, Brendan Powers is a wonderful human being and a great friend. He was great on the show when he was on here. We have Steve freezing real quick here. It'll be all right. We have another question for you, Steve. Once you're done being frozen. There you go. The next question we have is from Alex Petrini. You do not have to answer this if you don't want to, but who is the most difficult person you've worked with and why?
They're all difficult. They're all difficult. So here's a little bit of words of wisdom for you, is that if you're working with somebody or for them, never.
Well, you froze again, Steve. You said never ever. What else? What else was that?
Never ever work with or have a partner that agrees with everything. Are we still freezing?
No, we're not. You're good.
Yeah, a little bit. Everyone, it's good now.
Okay. So never ever get a partner or work with people or have a business partner with people that agree with everything you say. So if you're doing your job properly, inventing something or creating something, if the person you're working with is just agreeing with everything you say, then so there's a little bit of awkwardness and friction and everything. And the careful thing to do is to actually bring this out. You want devil's advocate. You want to see the opposing opinion.
Mm-hmm. And you need constructive criticism to get better.
Absolutely. So sometimes, when you're tired, this can come over as a difficult person. But if the result is if you look at each other as a band or as a singer or as a songwriter, and you go, wow, it's really good, isn't it? And they go, you've done the job. And you throw your arms around each other and go, sorry, we went through that, and sorry, we went through this. But there's nobody I've worked with who's consistently bad, even if they are really not the type of people to give in. You've got to, as a producer, you've got to be as diplomatic with things as possible, and as caring, and as also as empathetic. You've got to understand what they're feeling. Mm-hmm. So no one. Really. I've had a couple of really good rows with people that you'd know, but
we can save that for the next time if you want. So that kind of goes into the next question by a completely different person. Lynn Barker wants to know, who was the best artist you've worked with and why?
Yeah, well, that's the same question.
All of them.
All of them. I'll tell you what, because if it goes well, and it generally does, otherwise I wouldn't be professional. That's like asking you, who's your favorite child? That's
the answer I was expecting.
That's fair.
Yeah, it really is. So they're all different. There's a thing that happens. There is a little thing that happens, and if it doesn't happen, then I don't think you get to hear the product. It never comes out. But if you actually get to hear the product and it goes out, and hopefully it charts, then they become the same as choosing one of your children.
That's a fair assessment.
Yeah.
The next question, it's kind of a long one. The next two questions is by Alex Petrini. Has a lot of questions to ask. What artist would you want to work with that you haven't yet or didn't get to? What songs did you produce under the artists that you have? You already named their songs, so you don't have to do that again. Right. And have you produced inside of the US?
Oh yeah. But the interesting question is, this is a good question actually. Who do I feel I'd love to have produced? Because that changes quite a lot. I'm just thinking who's out there. Oh, okay. I'd love to have been involved with the Nirvana thing.
That's fair.
And all that were Dave Grohl. Dave Grohl. I'd love to work with Dave Grohl.
Foo Fighters are still around, so
yeah, I think he's a genius, and not only is he a genius, he comes over as a really, really nice guy.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, he's a sweetheart.
Yeah, and he's a benefactor. He's a benefactor as well. He gives, which is fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, Dave, if you're tuned in, my email address is on my website. Okay.
Go ahead and give him a call. He needs a job with the Foo Fighters.
One thing, I've never been to Seattle. I'd like actually to go to Seattle. So if any of you got a spare bed over there, let me know.
I think the house that Kurt lived in is still standing.
Right. Yeah.
But I think people live there now. There's actually this guy, his name's Jordan the Lion. He actually visited the hotel that, hold on, didn't mean to hit that. He actually stayed in the last hotel that Kurt Cobain stayed in. He visited the house, like he did all that stuff.
Right.
Just to see what kind of environment he was living in.
Yeah. Well, as I say, I'd love to go. I'd love to have a mooch around his town. The old venues and all that sort of thing. Sort of like you guys do when you come over and look at the Beatles, go to Liverpool.
Yeah. Or go to Ozzy Osbourne's old house.
Okay, Alex, what you got next, mate?
I think that's all of Alex's questions.
Okay.
Alex had a bunch of them. Oh, there is one more question from Kanak.
Okay.
By chance, do you know Michael Alago, Sir Steve? He's a brilliant A&R.
Michael Alago. No. How do we know him? Well, give me his track record.
He asked the question.
Is it Michael? Did he ask the question?
It's Kanak that asked that question. His name rings a bell. I just don't know his track record.
No, Kanak. I'll look him up. But it's a good thing to get into. Listen, if you get
Hold on, you froze again, Steve. If you get in and then you froze. We got blackness. Steve, can you hear me? There you are. Finish what you're saying.
I get a little whirly wheel.
You're good, buddy. We're about ready to call it a show, but what were you saying?
I got some info on Michael Alago.
Okay.
He's the A&R executive who signed Metallica, White Zombie, and worked with Nina Simone, John Lydon, and Cyndi Lauper.
He's good. He's good. He's earned his name. But yes, anyway, I'm going to have to, because I'm running a little bit late for another meeting. Right. I don't want to cut you short because I can hold this one off. But it's been great, and I'm all of you people. Thank you for popping in and having a look. It's been great talking, going over.
Hey, Steve, do you have time for just one short question?
Yeah.
Funky wants to know. It was just sent to me. Tips for budding musicians, artists, how to hone their skills. Well, you froze. We might have to save that question for next time because Steve keeps freezing. I'll let you go, Steve. It was an amazing episode. Get a hold of me if you can hear me because you keep freezing on us. If you want to visit Steve Brown's website, you can go ahead and visit stevebrown.info, and you could visit the Drive Foundation's website, thedrivefoundation.org. I apologize that we didn't get to your question, Funky and Kanak. We will. I'm trying to get Steve to work so he can say goodbye.
Hello, goodbye. Write to me, guys. Just write to me on my website.
Okay.
I'll answer.
Okay. Well, the question, since you're not freezing, what is your advice for honing your skills for upcoming musicians?
Upcoming musicians, once you've got the musicians, get a team. Get a team of people around you that are useful to criticize. So the decision is not all yours. You've got people around you that you trust, and you go, that song's not strong enough. That we need to get a new poster.
Mm-hmm. He got his point across before he froze again. There he is again. Okay,
Yeah.
thank you for answering all these questions. Thank you for being on the show. You are an incredible human being with a great life story. We will have you back, Steve. I'm going to get a hold of you after the show and figure out when we're going to have you back. But there will be a part 2, not part 3. I'm thinking way ahead. We're going to have a part 3. But much love to Steve. Thank you guys for tuning in. It wasn't that bad, besides a little bit of freezing, but that happens when you're live.
A lot better than that popcorn we were dealing with from before, huh?
Right? Steve's an excellent guest. I'd like to give a special thank you to Ashley and Kathy Grant. I don't know where Kath went. She probably went to go pee. I'm not sure. But hi, Ashley.
Hello.
You're on the air.
Yeah, we'll find her somewhere. We'll find her somewhere. She's around. Here she comes. Here she comes. Thanks for giving a big up to the stereotypes. I really appreciate that, Mike.
Oh
my God.
Big
oh
head.
my God.
Look at him. Big head now.
Big head. Big
Well,
head.
thank you guys for tuning in to Pink Sock Podcast. That's our lovely producer. That's Tony. Steve Brown will be back in the future to talk about the Drive Foundation. Hopefully next time, no freezing. It didn't happen till the end, so that's good.
Yeah,
it
happens with people across the pond.
It does. It's live. It happens. Remember, everybody, live long, rock hard. We'll see you guys next week. Over and out.